many people believe, whether it's correct or not, Penn likes social entrepreneur students, Caltech likes super geeks, and Harvard likes sad stories. You guys have anything to add to that or disprove the myth?
I think the social entrepreneur thing is interesting.
Okay, talking about DE, many parents think internships or research are absolutely necessary. Do you have any words of advice for them?
I think that any opportunity that you have outside of what's available at your school, or when you're thinking about what to do with your summer, it can feel intimidating to figure out what to do. So I get that. But again, like, we're excited to see like what that experience actually translates to for that student. Like, what did they learn from doing like an additional class or doing research? But not everybody can participate in all the same activities. So if you are going to do research, it's awesome that you have that opportunity. And what is more useful to hear about that is how it helped you to further your academic interest and like go to that next level or learn more, or to really convince you like, yeah, I am actually really interested in this thing. Or maybe it helped you pivot and you said, oh, now I know more about this. This actually isn't my jam. I'm going to go find something else. And it sent you on a different path. That's important to know too. So that's why that can be relevant, whether you are doing that in a job or research, or you're doing it in like some summer program, like an enrichment program that you can participate in. That's how that's really useful. So I wouldn't consider it a requirement or that there are certain expectations to have it. Whatever you decide to do with your time, it's important how you describe how it changed you, or how you were able to like maybe make an impact on others by doing that particular experience.
I would encourage students to think about the initiative that they have, the agency that they have in this process, because an internship or research might seem like something you sign up or an opportunity that you find, but we also see students who seek out their own opportunities, right? Like, it might not be an official club or an official internship, but it's an interest that a student has, and maybe they develop a project around that. Maybe they seek their own resources to make that happen. So the involvement can take many shapes and forms.
Yeah, I'll speak from the Caltech perspective. A lot of the students who apply to Caltech have research. Does that mean that every student has to do research to be admitted? Absolutely not. I want to like make sure that we drive this home though for any student that's applying to Caltech. Faculty members are a part of the admissions process. It's actually written to the faculty, or it's written to the faculty handbook that they have to sit on the freshman admissions committee. So if you're going to submit research, you better make sure that you did it for a reason and that you can actually explain it. So during my time as an admissions officer, anybody who had research, they would go to a faculty read. So a faculty would actually read it and kind of assess the level of research that the student did and see if this is something that's original or genuine. And then now I know that in the Caltech admissions process, they're actually using AI to interview a student based on there. So you can think of like a dissertation or an oral defense. A student will have to explain their research to make sure that this is real research. So just doing research for the sake of research is not going to get you into Caltech, for example. It has to be research that you have a passion about, that you can really speak to authentically and genuinely.
So what constitutes a good personal essay? What are some topics, stories, qualities that really intrigued you about an applicant? Are there any bad examples or exceptional examples that you'd like to share?
I think that all of us have read really amazing essays that the moral of the story is not about the student. And so then we finished it and we said, dang, well, I still don't really know more about this person, but their other person that they describe in the story sounds cool. And you don't want that to happen in your application, right? So whatever prompt that you choose for your personal statement, like, you really want to be able to help us understand your origin story of like your interest or something that changed your life, maybe something that heavily influences the way that you think or changed the way that you think or see the world. But the so what should be about your own growth or how you arrive to a particular belief or value or kind of like who you are as a person. Those are the most important elements to share with the admissions committee, because they're trying to picture you on campus maximizing the academic and other opportunities available on that campus, contributing to the community. And so you're getting to tell them a story about a portion of who you are or a time in your life that helps them to better visualize you continuing to do that in the future in college and beyond. So I think it can be kind of challenging to think of like, what's interesting about me? Like, I'm just me. Like, I don't know what to say in this essay and to tell you about myself. But asking a friend of something that stands out about you or a time that they see you like light up. I love to talk about sometimes the thing you geek out about is that thing you start talking about and your face lights up and you start talking real fast and you could talk about it forever. That's probably a good topic.
I often tell students that there's the what, right? But you want to go a layer deeper and really help us understand the why, right? Because that's what's going to bring out the humanity in the application. And it's a people process at the end of the day. It's people evaluating people, right? And so we really want to get to know the student. I think often where students can fall short is, say they're writing about an involvement in an activity. It can feel kind of a little resume, right? So you want to take, again, that layer deeper of like, okay, but what is the story? What are the values behind this? What is the driver here?
Yeah, and I think it is really thinking like you want to write something that only you could write. Like after we finish reading that essay, you don't want it to be an essay that we're like, oh, I've read 10 of these already today, right? So I think sometimes students kind of want to follow what they've heard is in, what they heard would get them in. They're like, oh, this is what Harvard wants. This is what Caltech wants me to write about. Stop thinking about that and really think about your story, what makes you, and then share that. Like that's what's really gonna make a great personal essay.
I heard this example one time that like you should be able to write your essay and it gets dropped in the middle of the cafeteria among all the students without your name on it. And someone can pick it up and say, oh, this essay is about so-and-so. And so to me, that helps us just a visual sometimes to be like, yeah, it's very unique to you, but don't underestimate how unique your life is. Just be sure you're helping that come to life for the human who hasn't met you before, so we can really see you come to life off of paper.
What should I show in the why school or why major essay? Sometimes people call it the academic essay. Is there a way to approach this topic effectively?
Well, one, I would say do your research on the school, right? And the better informed you are about where you're applying, the better then you can connect your interests and your why to that school, right? You can talk all day long about being extremely excited about the humanities, but about a particular department. But if that school doesn't have that department, there's going to be no match, right? So I would say that's thing number one. The other piece is to be able. I'll just leave it at that.
I think that Penn kind of is a little notorious. The why Penn essay is kind of famous. There's lots of lore about that essay. And because Penn is a school that you apply directly to one undergraduate school, you're already having to make some decisions about the specific like program or major that you're interested in talking about that. So the fit in the why Penn essay is important. And doing that research is important. But another thing that's important is writing the correct school's name in the essay. So it happens. People, copy paste. Spell check will not catch the name of an institution that's not the school you're applying to. So you don't want to make it just like a list of professors and a list of classes. Like Abdiel said, it really is important to make those connections between you and your interests and what that school or program offers. So you're connecting the dots and we can begin to see like why this school makes sense for you and your interests and can help you to achieve your goals.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what's funny is, a lot of students start with that research piece, which is great, but part of it really is a two-way fit, right? So you really have to know who you are and what you're interested in, and then make those connections with what the school has and what it has to offer. Because we know who our school is and what our school offers. So you just repeating off everything, like you all have a great humanities program, you have this professor in this course in that class, we already know what we have. So you being able to say, this is who I am, this is what I enjoy, this is my passion, and connecting it directly to the department, to the faculty, to a community on campus, that helps us see that two-way fit, and that helps us better envision you being a student on our campus in those clubs, in those classes, in those labs.
Another thing that I wanted to add is that some people have give advice that you have to tell a sob story to get admitted to college in your personal statement. And that's not true, but some of the truth that's buried within that rumor or that myth is that if you have been through something that's challenging, understanding how you bounce back and how you are resilient in that is the important part of what we want to understand from that story. Like, college is the next challenging level. It's not going to be easy all the time. And so being able to see that you've already experienced some things that could have been a setback for you, and your mentality or your approach to how you overcame that is important. But you don't get bonus points for like sending sob stories or anything like that. It's not an expectation. If you don't have anything hard that you've been through, that's not a bad thing. It's great that your life hasn't sent you in that direction of something that's like overly challenging. So don't try to force a sad story to tell the admissions committee either, because it won't come across as authentic to you. That's not necessary in the process.
Okay, the last question about application essays is that a lot of colleges are now asking about adversity questions or about differences that you have with some other students. Do you guys have any comments about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I think one of the things that these essays are really looking for, they're trying to assess these non-cognitive factors, right? So they're trying to assess or not maybe assess it, but hear a little bit more about it. So they want to know like what your character is, your community impact, or the way that you collaborate within a community. And I also think they want to know how you think. So it's not really trying to, as Maria mentioned earlier, pose a sob story or say something that you think they want to hear. It really is thinking about who you are, the way that you react to things, the way that you are within a community, and how you collaborate with other people that you really want to bring to the forefront.
Earlier, Derek mentioned that the incoming class at Caltech is around 250 students. At Penn, it's like 2,400 students.
About 1,600 at Harvard.
And I would say that overall for all of these schools, we are not looking for 2,400, 1,600, or 250 of the exact same person. We're not looking for one, cookie cutter type of student, and that these essays are an opportunity to help students be able to really to stand out and to show us who they might be in our school communities. And that's a really important part of the mission of these institutions, is to help people to really be able to dialogue with each other and collaborate with each other. And so using these essays to really express the way that you think, what makes you you, that spark that Abdiel mentioned earlier, is really important in these essays, I believe.
There's also a component of problem solving, I think, in these questions too, of no matter who you are, there probably is a time in your life where you've had a disagreement with somebody, or where you've had to work with someone to meet somewhere in the middle and achieve something together. So I think it's also getting at how are you, again, as has been mentioned by my colleagues, like how are you working with others in a community where in college you will have to do much of that as well.
A lot of parents from Asia ask these questions. Is it better to attend a boarding school in America, or is it better to attend an international school in Korea? I know there's no concrete answer, but in general, like a broad general sense, which path increases their chances of getting in?
I was gonna say, I don't think there's an advantage or a disadvantage. I think if you try to game the system, it's usually not gonna work out the way that you really want it to. So I think if you are a student who's set to be studying at an international school, go ahead and do that. Don't think that you have to go to a boarding school, or if you're at a boarding school, don't think that you have to come back to Korea or China or anywhere else in Asia and attend that school.
It's important to know that we read applications by school group. So regardless of your citizenship, if you're at a boarding school, we're looking at those students all together from that school. We're not then comparing them to either an international school or the boarding school down the street. We're just looking at what's available at that particular school and how that student maximized the opportunities that they had available to them. So whatever is going to be the environment that helps the student to thrive the most and pursue the opportunities that they're interested in and are relevant to them is whatever the best option will be.
And at the end of the day too, you are not just being evaluated against the students from your school or your region, but the college is building a class, and at the end of the day, you're going to be evaluated by the strength of your application in the pool itself, whether you're applying from Korea, from China, from elsewhere in Asia, from the US. The college is still going to ask the same questions in terms of the evaluation criteria.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I know that sometimes, because I've seen some students in different parts of Asia say, well, only this many students from Korea were admitted, and they both were from a boarding school in the U.S. So clearly, it's better for me to send my kid there, right? But that's not true. A lot of that stuff is done after the class is created. They go back and they look at they look at the class and like the citizenship, and that's what gets reported out. But if that kid, they were reading, as Maria said, in the context of that student at that school and how they maximize their opportunities there. So it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, go where you are supposed to go and maximize those opportunities and those resources there.
Okay. The next question is actually very similar. Is it better to attend a prestigious, well-known international high school or a lesser-known, smaller school? And I guess you could think about it this way. Do colleges rate or rank each high school by their prestige or overall strengths, or no?
No, we didn't rank schools against each other or anything like that. I will say that we got to know schools and the strengths that they had and what's available to them because we read the same high schools, year over year for our territory. But that stays individual to that school. We didn't say if only this kid had gone to the other school, then we would consider them this way. We look at what we see when we get there. And if students do change schools and they want to talk about the change and progression, that can influence things. But that's important context to put in the application. But it's up to them what school is going to work best. I will also say that if you have the opportunity to go to a great school, why not in high school, right? Make the most of the great opportunities that are there. And if you don't have that opportunity, there's no punishment for that.
I was going to say, it's just going to better prepare you for college. If you're going to a school that has more resources and more courses and more offerings, that's going to better prepare you for college. And ultimately, that's what you want, right? You want to be able to be as well prepared, not for just the admissions process, but for what follows it, college, a career, and anything that comes after it.
So for our next set of questions, we have do's and don'ts, okay? Is there such thing as an easier major to get in this?
So there might be slightly different responses from each of us because we might offer different programs or read them in different ways. But I'll say that at Harvard, any student applying to Harvard College, which is the undergraduate school, applies to Harvard College. Students are not applying to a specific division or department. And so in that sense, the student is being evaluated in the same way, right? The same criteria, the same evaluation system. There is something called institutional priorities, right? So a school might have opened up a new major, and they are interested in filling spots for that major, but it is not to say that simply because the student has selected a particular major in their application, that is somehow going to give them an edge over other students. Really what it comes down to is that a student is showing academic strengths ideally across the board, but also that they are showing academic strengths in their area of interest, and they are able to really explain in their application why they are interested in a particular major. If a student is in their activities, it's all STEM, but they're applying as a history major, it might raise some questions as to I don't really connect the dots here. So.
Yeah, I was going to say I can speak from the Caltech perspective and use that same example. So we could have a student who has all that STEM, but it is applying history. And you can obviously tell that it was a strategic move. But the thing is, at Caltech, there's no student who's just a history major, right? Most of the students, if you are doing anything in the humanities or social sciences, you have your STEM major and then that in addition to. So just applying as a history major, since Caltech doesn't admit by major either, it just isn't going to make sense, and you're actually going to hurt your case more than help it by trying to be too strategic in a way.
I think that two things are important to know. If you're applying to a major or program that's super popular, a lot of people are applying. So your why is going to matter a lot more to be able to help understand, for the admissions officers to understand that the student really has done their research and knows what that program is about. And also to help distinguish them amongst the sea of other people applying to it. And on the complete flip side, for very like niche or not very popular, unique majors and programs, if not very many people apply to them in the first place, you're probably going to like really want to investigate more. Why are you interested in this thing that like most people don't apply to? And so there would be more attention paid to like why you did that. So that's important to know. And at Penn, as I mentioned before, we're divided into the 4 undergraduate schools. They have different number of students that are admitted to each of them because they're different sizes. So that's important, and understanding the curriculum for each of them is key. So like liberal arts is baked into all of it. So if you want to do Penn engineering, it's because you appreciate a liberal arts education plus the specifics of engineering as a profession, not sacrificing one or the other. So it is more challenging to get in because there are fewer spots, but that doesn't mean that you should apply to the college or that applying to the College of Arts and Sciences is easier. And so it's definitely a myth that we are always trying to help people to stop believing.
Okay. All right, great. So next question is actually very similar. There is always a rumor going around in many places in Asia that it's easier to get into school if you apply as an art major. Do you guys have any comments?
Well, I already mentioned about what it would be like if you were applying to Caltech as just an art major, but I also want people to realize, I think everything is getting more competitive, right? I think nowadays students and families have access to more information. So applying to an art or applying it through an art major now too, it's like you actually need to have a portfolio and there has to be a reason. So even if you are applying as an art major, if you don't have good artwork or a good portfolio, that's not going to help you. And if you're applying as an art major, you have to realize you're actually competing against real art majors who actually, that is their passion and that's what they've devoted all of their time to. So don't do it as a strategic move if it's not something that you're actually good at.
Yeah, easier is relative, right? Like easier is still extremely competitive.
Right.
Is there a common mistake that you see over and over again on students' applications?
I think I wouldn't call it a mistake, but a missed opportunity is when students are very focused on the profession that they want to go into after college. And so they kind of skip the opportunity to talk about the college experience and the education in college. And they talk a little bit more about how this, world-renowned education can prepare them for med school or law school or get them a great job. And while that's true and important, it's more important for the admissions committee to hear about like the actual opportunities for the undergrad college experience. And so that's something I would encourage people to avoid doing, is just focus completely on the future after college.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you mentioned this earlier, but writing the wrong institution's name, just writing incorrect information. I think that goes back to students trying to become the applicant that they think we want to hear from or read. And in doing so, you are kind of making those mistakes. I also think, you are applying to, I'm sure students are applying to multiple schools, but you also have to realize that you're applying to multiple schools, but we're only reading your one application from you. So you want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward, crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and so forth.
I think for accomplished students, it's very easy to get in the mindset of like, I just want to tell you what I've done, but I think that is just not going far enough. In a really strong application, you're really talking about why, right? And what is the story? Like, why did I choose to get so involved with research, right? And how am I connecting that to what I might want to study in college, or why I've taken the classes I've taken, or why your particular school. So the admissions committee is getting to know you for the first time, and so the better you are able to connect those dots for them, the more cohesive of a story.
A lot of students and parents, they like to define each school, believing that they could fit themselves into each school's style. For example, many people believe, whether it's correct or not, Penn, like social entrepreneur students, Caltech like super geeks and Harvard like sad stories. You guys have anything to add to that or disprove the myth?
I think the social entrepreneur thing is interesting because there are many students who could probably fit that profile. But I think if you go a layer deeper, what it means is that a lot of Penn students are going beyond what the name of like their major is or their academic interests and really thinking about the application to society and solving the world's problems or making a change in a community. And that is a value of the institution. And it can take a lot of different forms. So it doesn't mean you have to apply to the entrepreneurship program or something that sounds community oriented, but how you connect the dots between people and academics and your interest and the purpose of what you want to do with it is important. So it's not completely true, but it's not completely wrong.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too when people say geek or nerd, they say it like it's a bad thing, but I think really what I think it is, it's passion, right? That they're able to geek out or nerd out about the thing that they love so much. So if that is a stereotype, then that's definitely true. But once again, even though it's a class of 250 students coming in, we still have students who are in theater. We still have sports, right? So we still need students who love all of these different things. So there's not one specific type of student, but if there's one thing I can say, I think it is that all of the students have a deep passion for something, and that's typically STEM and then some other things as well.
Yeah, I think it's funny that the sad story went for Harvard. I don't know where that came from. Not at all the case. I mean, students have a wide range of experiences, and I think just thinking back on my 5 years in the admissions committee, we just want to connect with people, right? The more human the essay, the better. So I think it's just all about students telling us who they are and not trying to think too big either. It's not about telling your whole life story. It's about telling us a particular anecdote story and going with that.
What do you want to tell our students in Asia, US, or worldwide? Do you have any words of advice for them?
Yeah, my advice there would be to think about the connections you are making with your educators, with your counselors, the folks in your school, because ultimately they are going to be your primary advocates in the process. They are going to be the educators writing your letters of recommendation. And so building those relationships early on is super, super important, both from an academic perspective, just you having success in high school and building community, but also because an admissions team is evaluating not just a student's component of the application, but also letters of recommendation and other information that comes from the school.
I think maybe I would take it back to the beginning of this conversation where we talked about balance and alignment and how important that is. It's really challenging to isolate any one portion of the application as the most important. And so as students are going along and following their priorities in the classroom, outside the classroom, that will be reflected in the application, to remember that the entire story and how it's being woven together is an important part. So like looking back and reflecting is a really big part of the application process, not just test prep, not just maintaining good grades.
And then I would say, I guess, I mean, this might sound a little cliche, but like be authentic, be you, be genuine in the entire process. I think sometimes students might think that, you know, they can't talk about their identity or their culture in a way because maybe the admissions officers won't understand it or won't know it. I think oftentimes for students from Asia, that's something that is really exciting to read and to hear about. I'm not telling everybody to go out and write specifically about that, but weaving some of those pieces in there it makes it authentic and it makes it you. And I think that's what makes it interesting to read.
I'm going to slip in one more question. How important are letters of recommendations?
Letters of recommendation are very important in the process in that it helps us contextualize you within the context of your school community, because it's of course very important to hear from the student themselves, but also the educators are there to help us paint that fuller picture, right? Like, what is the student like in the classroom, or how are they working together with peers? Maybe they're super smart, but are they generous with their knowledge, right? Are they the kind of student who will actually step in and tutor a student, a peer who needs extra support? So that really helps the student come to life for us. So those, which is why I mentioned earlier, that you're really thinking carefully about who you're asking for a recommender. It's not just asking the teachers where you have the best grades, but it's thinking about who can speak to me as a full person the best.
Yeah, with less than 1,000 undergraduates on campus, hearing from teachers to hear who this student will be in the community that they're currently in is very important. So letters of recommendations from the teachers as well as counselors, I think, are very important in the process. That being said, I don't think that you should think that is the only thing, but it is very, very important. So don't wait to the last minute to ask a counselor or a teacher. Make sure also that they know what you're doing and where you're applying, and maybe even the major and what you've been doing, because I think for us too, we want to be able to connect the dots. And if you are talking about something that you did or something that you love and your counselors and teachers don't mention it at all, it might make us wonder, did you actually do this? Is this actually real? If you write about being a leader and a collaborator and that doesn't come up at all in any of your recommendations, then it doesn't really help. It doesn't really help in seeing you as this person who you've portrayed yourself to be.
I know that some people are like really concerned about like who writes the letter as well. And so for those required letters of recommendation that come from your high school and from your teachers, it's an opportunity to show more about your academic prep for your interest area too. So that alignment can be really useful. If you're applying to a STEM program, like having math or science teacher write a letter for you probably is useful. And then similarly for those additional letters of recommendation, maybe from programs that you participated in, whether it's internships or research or summer programs, service, all of those things. It's more important what is in the letter, what they express about what you learned, how you changed, how you impacted people, left an imprint there, than the actual name or title of the person who is signing the letter. So I feel like it's okay to say this. One time someone interned for this very famous actor and I got so excited. I read a letter of recommendation from this very famous actor, but they didn't really like know the student at all. So like that letter really didn't influence their application for the better just because a famous person signed it. And I think similarly when it comes to like professors and research and you know, jobs and internships and that sort of thing. So I get why it's tempting, but that's probably another myth that we should probably bust.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there's the required number. The required number is all that you really need. The only time you should go beyond that is if really this additional person can give us more context or show us a different side of you. So the required ones, required, definitely do. But when you're thinking of extra ones, just because on whatever platform you're applying, it says that they can accept 8 recommendations does not mean you should submit 8.
And then lastly, just follow some proper etiquette and be mindful of your educator's time and energy. And they might be writing letters for many, many students. And so again, as Derek shared, you give them time, help them help you, right? Whether it's you prepare a little sheet that's like, here's a summary of what I've done, just help them help you.
Okay, great. Guys, thank you so much for being here today. And that will conclude our interview. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.